Hi, my name's Andy Hall, and welcome to this MGEVs video call to discuss about the podcast, discuss about your experiences with MGEVs. Anybody want to kind of chat about their experience, like initial experience with their MG? Is it your first EV, for example?
I'm happy to take the lead on that, if that's okay.
Yeah, go
for it. First EV. I've prior to having this vehicle, I had a Volvo XC90 for probably about 13, 14 years. Absolute fantastic car, reliable as anything, but obviously using it for work and ran it into the ground, looking for a new car, wanted to make that switch. So it's been an absolute fantastic experience, I have to admit. There's some niggles. The Comfort 2 sorted out a lot of those niggles for me, but I'm not sure. And I've got it to go. It's saying it should go back in for its first service in January, albeit I didn't pick the car up until March. Mm-hmm. There's some concerns around the update and whether it fully took. And the reason I say that is I still get one horn every now and again if the passenger gets out of the vehicle and I'm still in the car and my door is closed and I haven't had a chance to open the door. It horns once, not the 3 times, right. But it horns once. So I don't think that's fully taken. And also the high beam, basically to switch on and off. Mm-hmm. The actual wording is there in the settings under the comfort settings, but I can switch it on and off, but it doesn't do anything. Right. So and this morning I had an unpleasant experience driving. It was quite dark when I was out, and all of a sudden my high beam went on, and I was trying to turn it off, and I couldn't react quickly enough. And then another driver started flashing me. And,
oh no, it's the worst.
Yeah, so I just made sure I turned it off completely, just to be on the safe side. It's the first time it's really done that in sort of normal conditions, but it's got darker. So obviously that's that. And the only other thing I've noticed, and it was a subject for debate quite a bit on the forum, was that when it went in for its update, my mileage would often show probably about 178, 183 miles on a full charge. Mm-hmm. That suddenly shot up to over 200 miles of range or anticipated range after the update. And that's never changed since, albeit it's dropped slightly to about 206 in the cold on a full charge. But I'm not getting that. So again, I've just got some niggles about the actual update when it was applied, whether it's fully taken. So I'm just going to ask them to redo those updates, to reapply them if they can, to make sure that it has fully taken. But other than that, I love the car. I just wish it had a bit more range.
Yeah, I think everybody, whatever EV they've got, kind of has that feeling. It's like, you could always maybe get 10, 20, 15% more on it. But I think any EV that's over 200, I think most people are fine in most situations. And I mean, yours technically says it's over 200, but yeah, the reality about this time of year, about 120, 130, if you're gunning it on the motorway, probably another 20 or 30 miles would be great. But and personally from my experience as well, when I got my car, they hadn't applied the Comfort 2 update because it came from stock, and all the ones in so I got it from Chorley Group, and the ones in Burnley, they'd done the updates there, but they got one from stock in Chorley, brought it in, and when I was doing handover, I noticed they hadn't done it and said, we can do it here and then if you don't mind waiting and sort of an hour and a half while we do it. And apparently what happened when they were doing it, something sort of stopped for about a couple of seconds, and it didn't do all the update. So mine wouldn't charge at all once they'd done the update.
Right.
It would charge on DC rapid, but it wouldn't charge on AC. So I had to take the car back the next day. And then I had a weekend planned trip to Scotland. So Charlie were really good. They lent me their loaner. So I put miles of their car around Scotland. Came back down to collect the car on Monday. It's been fine ever since. However, my GOM range has never got anywhere near what you had previously. Actually, maybe I've got a heavy foot, but I'm kind of get about 163. It says in normal mode when it's fully charged, and I mean, yesterday I got the worst ever efficiency because I went up the M62 from where I live, and it's up just like this really big hill doing 73 miles an hour. And I looked at the efficiency and it was doing like 2.1 miles per kilowatt hour.
It's not a great deal.
It's like Audi e-tron worthy.
I must admit, I do find it a bit of a challenge now. I mean, I'll be honest, towards the end with my Volvo, I was slowing down a lot more. I was probably sticking to more sort of 60 miles an hour, trying to eke out the range, because the Volvo was only meant to do when it was advertised as new, probably about 41 miles per gallon on a run. Mm-hmm. I was getting 46 out of it on average. And again, on my average reading at the moment, even though when it had the Comfort 2 update, it sort of reset all my mileage back to zero, I'm still averaging 4.3 miles per kilowatt. Mm-hmm. So as an average, I'm doing quite well, but I'm very gentle on the accelerator. Anticipate braking where I can, particularly if I'm going downhill. I try and let it roll itself and give it another little tap, just trying to get the braking just about right. So I do find that's a little bit of a competition for myself, trying to get as much as I can out of it. But I've noticed, particularly today, it was 2 degrees when I went out. The kilowatts or the miles per kilowatt had substantially fallen. Yeah. So and I suppose the only other frustrating bit for me, I'm utilising the heated seats to try and keep myself warm. I wish the heater didn't actually run off the high voltage battery, so that you could always have the heat on. Because that's another little thing, turning it on and off, just trying to conserve that extra bit of range. But no, I say the car itself, I thoroughly enjoy driving it. I find it a pleasure. I've put a bit of mood lighting in there.
Mark, has your driving style changed since you went from your previous car? Are you more, because you're keeping an eye on the miles per kilowatt hour, so has that slowed you down?
I don't think it has, because I was driving carefully with the Volvo anyway, trying to eke out as much as I can, because obviously I was using it for business, and therefore I get X amount of pence per mile. So the more mileage I was getting out of it, the better returns I was getting to a degree. So there was always an incentive there. And even now, I'll be honest with you, my driving style probably hasn't changed. It's like a challenge to myself to get as much as I can out of it. But I'm also utilising, and thank you very, very much, PodPoint, as many free charging stations as I can. A lot of my work is, as I say, in the field. So I'm driving about in London and South. So whenever I can, I look when I've been to a place of work, I have a quick look around the area, any free charging points which I can go to, park up, charge a little bit, do some emails, make some telephone calls, and sort of fix that in or fit it into my working schedule, if it makes sense. Just trying to drive as economically as I can. But no, I don't think it has. I don't think my driving has changed. I've sort of matured, and I drive slower now anyway. I don't feel that I need to be driving around at 1 million miles an hour. It's nice to have a little bit of acceleration, but yeah, no, that's it.
You get a lot better than me. I've only ever had 3.2. That's that. Yeah, I drive everywhere with the heat on, the heated seats on. I'm always cold.
Yeah, and that's it. I mean, it's quite sad. But I've got a blanket in the car now, so but if I am charging somewhere on a 7 kilowatt pod point, I know you can turn obviously the power on to have the heating on, but obviously you're taking out charge as it's coming in. So I've got a blanket in the back that I can put around my feet, because I do find actually the car itself isn't too bad, but I think there's a bit of a draft which comes in from the from the footwell, somehow, some way. I don't know if anybody else has noticed that.
Yeah. If you get on your hands and knees and you put your head underneath the steering column, you can actually see the windscreen, the bottom end of the windscreen where it's black. You can actually see the bottom of there. So it's quite open under there. So I was thinking about getting some sort of insulation and tucking it up under there to make it a bit warmer.
Is there a design reason why there might be that gap?
No idea. I think it's cost cutting by the look of it.
Yeah, I'd imagine so. Yeah.
Yeah, there's quite a few areas where they've skimped when you look at things, but I would say so.
But again, if you know, I've said this, and a lot of other people have said it on the forum as well. When you look at I think it's a good build. Yes, as you say, there's obviously areas which they've cut back at, but the build's good. I think it drives lovely. I know some people have, some of the reviews I think have been unfair to the vehicle, considering its price range. But if you look at what you're getting compared to the market out there, the additions that you're getting, the actual quality of the car, the drivability, I think it's fantastic value. I really do. The only thing that's really, really annoyed me is obviously I put my order in January thinking that the prices would probably, they were quite low to start with. There were some good deals. I thought once they get a foot in, the prices would go up a little bit. And unfortunately, they've actually come down even further, haven't they? So, if I'd held out a little bit longer, perhaps I could have got an even bigger saving. But I'm happy what I paid. I really am. I think it's a brilliant car.
No, you've not done as bad as some people have on the Volkswagen ID3. They're already knocking £6,000 off the price they were quoting through contributions. So actually, I think there was it's maybe like an extra 3,000 off, but the price on that have come down really quickly because obviously Volkswagen want to get rid of stock before the end of the year. So it's I think with EVs particularly that there's a little bit of buyer's remorse because there's always something new coming out, something better, and then manufacturers then have to compete with more stock coming in, so they've got to then adjust their prices. So I think if you feel the price is right at the time, stay away from the forums, stay away from finding out what the manufacturers are doing. And if somebody posts a great deal at some dealership in the northeast, it's like just ignore it. Pretend you haven't seen it.
Yeah. Blessed, isn't it, once you buy a car?
Yeah.
No, I'd put a post up there earlier on, guys. I know this is probably falling outside your agenda a wee bit. We bought one of the Vic Young 20,450 MG ZS exclusives there. Got it on Saturday, and I went to the extent of getting the 3 updates put on the invoice, only to find out when we got it home, when you plug it in and it eventually starts charging, which is eventually because it wouldn't do it at the start, that the BMS update hasn't been done and cannot be done. I'm assured by Stuart from Vic Young's there today. Any of you heard anything along those lines? Or
not that I know of. Because I thought like all cars that needed that BMS update have to have it, and it can be applied to all cars as far as I'm aware.
Yeah,
I've only had my car a week, and when I picked it up, they had every single update on it, and I've tested them all, and they're all fully working.
Yeah. No, well, the HV Fuse one, I don't think you can check it, but certainly the comfort update was done on it. Although they told me today that the comfort updates are now on the cars that they have coming through are already done, so they don't have to do it. But the BMS one, their guy Stuart, I think you call their after sales manager or their workshop manager, I'm not too sure which, he said that they had checked my car VIN, or it's actually my dad's car, but they checked my dad's car's VIN against the list of VINs that they can update with the BMS one, and it doesn't fall within that range, so therefore they can't do it. Now, I'm sure you've guessed already, we're from Northern Ireland, so we took 2 ferries, one over to Cairnryan to collect it and one back to bring it back again. So Vic Young's are 130 miles away or whatever from. Sorry, my video keeps dropping out for whatever reason. So it's a bit of a nonsense. But I don't want to hijack your Zoom meeting for. I'm sure you have your own agendas to discuss and so on. But
I think on that note, I think there's an article on the forum about that somebody was saying that there was no updates available on the VIN and they needed the VIN for MG to actually pay for the update. And when they actually went into MG, they got it going without the VIN, and they paid for the update and had it put on their car. So you want to have a search for that.
Yeah, no, I've read that one. I mean, I've known for a while. I've read. Oh, jeepers, your eyes start to go round and round in circles. You've read that much. But you know yourself, spending. Well, I know that was quite a good deal. I think we got, certainly at the minute. But yeah, he's saying, what he said was they don't charge for any of the updates. The HV one is, I think, that has to be done if the car comes in for service or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
The Comfort one, some dealers charge for, some don't, but he's saying they don't. The cars that they're getting in now already have it. But the BMS one, there's no charge for it either, is my understanding. But he's categorically stating that they can't do it. To the point there where I said today, well, that's okay then, sure. Do you want to give me a wee shout when you have a car that you can put the BMS update on? And sure, we'll just swap it for that. And he said, oh, sure, I'll just put you through the sales and we'll get that. It didn't fizz on him at all. So I don't know what to do.
It's a strange one, that.
Yeah, it is a strange one. I don't believe it. To be honest, I'm sort of going with I don't know why it keeps dropping out. I'm going with what you're saying there, that there's a good chance that if they stuck it on and tried to do it, it would go through okay. They might have to pay for it, but it would go through okay.
It should be done. Yeah.
I'm just wondering whether it's a similar problem to what I was mentioning earlier with my Comfort 2 updates, whether perhaps has all the software updates actually been applied? Has it been corrupted somewhere along the download? So maybe some of it's not correctly been accepted.
Well, normally when you do a software update or something like that, you have a kind of checksum at the end, don't you? Well, anybody who's into computers knows that you kind of, they have a verification at the end, and you know if it hasn't checked out 100%, then I'd assume you'd have to do it again from scratch, because you know if you're usually with any hardware, if you're updating the firmware in it, which I guess this is similar to, and it doesn't work properly, the thing can be like very broken.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was reading the Real Humans problems that he was having earlier on with his update on his sat nav, but I still don't get why they're saying that the VIN won't work and they won't even try it. But my background is I'm electronic engineer since I was 17. I'm 52 now, so I've been at it a long time. And I was an engineering manager as well for a low voltage switchgear company, and that's very true, Stuart, that you should have a checksum at the end to make sure that it's went through okay. But any of my apprentices or any of my journeymen or any of my engineers, if I got them to do a change in something, suck it and see at the very end, you make sure...
You verify it.
Yeah, you're putting a BMS update on it. The very thing you do is plug it in and open the doors and see if the blooming thing quits or keeps going or whatever. Who on earth would ever do an update and not physically check that it's done? I don't know, the mind boggles. But then I've bought a lot of cars and owned a lot of cars and dealt with a lot of dealerships, and to be honest, nothing would really surprise you. I'm sure you boys are the same.
Yeah, I mean, as I say, when I had that Comfort 2 done on mine, and they'd applied the update, or so they said, but when we went out to actually test it, so they brought the car back out and said it was ready, and I went to test the car again in relation to the horn. When I was initially having the free burst of horn before, which was really causing upset, it actually reduced to 2. So I said, well, it's still doing it. So they took it back in again. They've applied the update. It's taken it down to 1. So I'm a little bit concerned, but everything else seemed to be working. The temperature was on there. The clock on the dash had changed to range. So I just think it's perhaps, you know, we're talking MG, we're talking Chinese. Is it that they're not as sophisticated as what Microsoft is and Apple, where they actually do the downloads, they verify the download before it actually gets installed? I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, what you're saying could have a bit of truth to it. I mean, I've done a lot of PLC programming over the years, And there's more than one way to skin a cat. So the way I might go about doing my program might not necessarily agree. And I mean, I was Mitsubishi PLC based, and other guys that work with Siemens, they all have their own little special commands and so on and so forth. So there's more than one way to skin a cat, but that BMS update's a standard one. It's all over all of the forums, not only this one, but obviously over Speak EV and what have you. And it seems common enough, and it's been around for long enough for them to come out with that they can't do it because it doesn't fall within the right VIN range. Is it either the car's a really, really old one with different firmware in it or what? Or is it a really, really new one with different firmware in it or what? I don't know. So I know there's at least 2 other guys on this forum that I'm talking to, either through the open post or through direct messaging, that are buying from Vic Youngs as well, who are expecting those same 3 updates done. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes, because it'll be a lot easier for them to reject the cars. It would remind you of Tesla actually a little bit, wouldn't it?
Is it also, I'm wondering, is it that, and I read somewhere on the forum, and I can't remember where it was now, in relation to the updates were only being done by VIN numbers at certain times, so they didn't have a mass rush, like it wasn't being recalled, it was being managed as vehicles came in. If they came in within that range for servicing or for any other fault, the updates would be applied. Is that maybe what they're saying? It's not in range. Perhaps it's not in range to be done at the moment.
That's a really interesting point. What he did say was that when the MG3 came out, they had this exact issue where there were certain ranges of VIN numbers that were eligible for the updates and certain that weren't. He says, and then that changed as time went on. So you could be right. It could very much be one of those things there where they don't want. I haven't sold that many of them. I mean, jeepers creepers. If each place can't manage, if each MG dealership can't manage to keep up with the updates on the cars it's sold, that would start to really worry you, wouldn't it?
Yeah. I'm just wondering if that's, because obviously we're looking at it from Northern Ireland, from a UK perspective. But when we're looking perhaps from a Europe perspective, which they're selling a lot of cars in Europe elsewhere, aren't they? Perhaps that's their way of managing it through the MG dealership.
And as far as I'm aware, just to jump in, what happens when all the updates take place is they've got to download the packages from China. So that's why some people say, the update can take an hour and a half. Others, it can be in for 7 hours. And it's not just the dealer kind of like pulling a fast one. It's the fact that broadband connection, there can be drops in the connection between here and SAIC out in China. So I think, what happened to mine was when the update was happening, it was my BMS update that happened on my car when I got it brand new. Something failed in it and it stopped the AC charging working. So it would work on DC charging, but it wouldn't work on alternating current. So I couldn't plug it into my house, whether it be on the granny cable or into my actual charger. So I ended up having to take it back and they reapplied the update and it worked fine. And they then noticed in the checksum that there'd just been this like fragment of time where the download hadn't fully downloaded and there was a bit of data missing.
I wonder how many meg it is.
Yeah, I think it might be into the gigs.
Have you had any problems with yours, Michael?
Yeah, so when I first bought the car, it didn't have the December BMS. So it wouldn't do any kind of time charges with the Zappy at all. I had to wait a fair bit of time because of lockdown, and then in August I had to pay another dealer because my dealer in Cardiff didn't have a tech, so I had to pay the Cambran dealer to put the Comfort 2 update on, and he reapplied their BMS to get it working with my Zappy.
Okay, but everything's fine now, is it?
It's fine now, but I haven't got the newest BMS with the unlock charging facility.
Yeah, mine hasn't got that either at the moment. That will hopefully be applied on its first service.
Yeah, mine's going to be in March time.
Envious of Tesla dealers who get.
Well. Sorry, Steve, go ahead.
So are you envious of Tesla owners who basically get theirs from their own router?
Yeah, but the flip side is the body panels are better aligned than
Yes, yeah.
I have to say, when we went round the car on Sunday, trying to get my dad's 80, trying to get him to wait until I had checked the car before he paid for it. He's of the age there where he believes he pays for everything before he starts using it. I said, Dad, just please wait until I check it. And I have to say, the panel gaps were superb. I mean, I've been in a few car clubs, prestige car clubs, and won a few concours competitions and whatnot. So I'm usually pretty good at spotting a wee dent or a ding or a panel gap that's not quite right or paintwork. But I have to say that I'm quite impressed with some of the build quality. There's a few wee things just that would be reminiscent of early sort of Kias and Hyundai. You know, wee silly things that maybe they just haven't thought of yet, but will probably follow as time goes on. But most of this, I mean, I have a Hyundai Tucson that we had to go to England to buy because cars are so expensive here in Northern Ireland. We ended up in Hereford to buy it, but the steering on the MG is nicer, and the buttons are pretty much nicer than the Hyundai, and you know, it was probably a more expensive car, less price anyway.
Just going back to that comment, Stuart, about Tesla, it's an interesting point, but again, my governor's got a BMW 3 Series, which is a 69 reg, and his updates via Wi-Fi, via his connectivity, via his phone, and evidently BMWs talk to each other as well if they pull up beside each other. I don't know how true that is, but they do. They can communicate with each other.
Yeah, is it not by like that?
Certainly not by the indicators.
No, not by
no, they were.
But there was an interesting point. The point I was going to get to in relation to, again, technology and with data download. His car was in the middle of a download, and we look after a famous racing stables in Newmarket, but the connectivity around there is quite poor. So he lost connectivity. When he went to restart the car, it would not do anything. He could not get the car started. They had to pull out a BMW recovery vehicle. They couldn't get it started. They then had to get it towed away back to where he bought it from. So, and they said it was because the actual update had crashed because he lost connectivity. So, you know, whilst a lot of places do have that connectivity, there are places that don't. And if that can happen to you, I'd rather it not crash when you're actually out and about, if that makes sense.
And I think that's definitely true of a lot of legacy automakers. They're not software engineers, and they're really struggling with this transition to automobiles being more of a technology item than it is just a car. VW are having to scramble and rewrite all their software and apply updates. Their first round of ID3s, you've got the BMW issues, which you said, and Tesla are kind of the opposite. They're a software company first, and then they're making cars second. So the panel gaps might not be there, but their software is fantastic.
Yeah, he pays your money, don't you? And he takes your choice.
Yeah.
Andy, did you want to? Sorry. Go ahead, Steve.
I was just going to say, talking about panel gaps and things like that, has anybody noticed at the bonnet, the front panel and the bonnet, there's like a little gap between? I know when I've opened my bonnet, there's like a grey plastic thing, and that's absolutely pooled full of water and full of air, and throwing a bit of it over the engine. Has anybody else experienced anything like that? Have you not looked under the bonnet?
Mine's luckily garage, so I haven't seen too much evidence of that. I've seen it gets quite dirty, but I had a Kia Soul EV before that, and that had a similar sort of bonnet on it. Although it was actually flush that one, but that area used to get quite filthy. My wife had a Nissan Leaf, and hers did as well. In fact, the Leaf had a real problem with it, where the front joints went down for the suspension. They had these two sort of like circular bits here with like a hole in it that pulled water in it and rusted them. It's quite a common problem, and you end up having to get them replaced. I mean, the good thing about EV engines, the EV motor area in the bay, is there's not a lot that they're well protected for water ingress, so it shouldn't be too much of a concern. But it's probably something worth keeping an eye on if maybe when you go in your next service.
It tends to sort of spray water over the engine. So I was thinking about putting a rubber seal in there or something just to take that gap, really. But just something to be aware of.
A lot of cars have a rubber seal there, actually, too.
Yeah. No,
not particularly well secured rubber seals, I might add, but normally would. We had 3 Leafs. I bought the first one in 2013. It was a bit of a bargain as well. Now, just if we're reminiscing it, they were 31,000 then, which made them 26 with the government grant, which was $5,000, and it was a 2013 Gen 1. So the only extra you could really put on was the paint color and the solar thing on the spoiler. But I bought that car with 40 miles on it, and I put most of those on the test drive for under $16,000. And it was only registered about 4 weeks or 5 weeks. It was a pre-reg. And then the second one was one of the Nissan PCP deals, the friends and family ones that anybody could get. And that was £149 deposit and £149 a month for 2 years. And that sort of ruined it for me, because you're never going to get that again.
No, there's loads of people who were on those deals and they're like, what do I do next?
I know. And then my dad's, the one that we traded in. Now, my dad, I have to say, as I said, he's 80, and he sort of negotiates car parks by touch now. So he keeps reversing until the car won't reverse anymore. He's horrendous. But so I mean, his one needed the rear bumper painted, but the car was tidy and straight enough. 22,000 miles on it. 2017, 30 kilowatt, and we got 8750. So I think Vic Young did all right, but my dad he was looking at the change figure and he was happy with, it was just under $12,000 to change. But his Leaf was $250. He had to have silver and he had to have a 30 kilowatt, otherwise it would have been £189 a month in 2017, which is still cheap motoring no matter what you look at it. And if you were doing any miles at all for work or anything like that, it would be paying for itself every week.
I mean, that's actually an interesting thing. Like, what was the motivation for everybody on the call to get into an EV? Was it sort of cost of ownership, cost of sort of commuting miles coming down?
I had to get rid of some money. But then I got married a lot of years ago, which got rid of a lot more of it.
I think I was, I explained to Stuart at weekend, I had a Hyundai Tucson like you had, Stephen. But the tax was like 280 a year, I think, and the miles per gallon was in the 30s. So I got rid of that and got a Hyundai i40, which was nice, but I missed the height ride, just the SUV experience. So for me, I've looked at, there's not a great deal of cars that are similar to the MG out there. The Kona, a bit smaller though. So when I saw this, it was like, wow, win-win. Free road tax, cheap running costs, and a cheap car, really. I won't say what it cost me, Mark, but it's cracking, brilliant. Yeah.
Should I not be quoting? I'm a bit too free with. That's probably the engineer in me. I just say it out loud. I'm not really capable of holding back. So. It is what it is. When we took it for a test drive, I brought my dad up with me, and I had to force him into the Leaf more or less, and I had to force him out of it. But we called into Tesla for a look, and he just couldn't get over the fact that he couldn't figure out why they did their door handles the way they did them. So we left there and went straight on the road. We call it the Boucher Road here in Belfast, and it's just full of car dealerships. And we called into MG, and you can buy 2 exclusives for £500 more than one Tesla Model 3 SR Plus. And it just, okay, the Tesla's probably in a lot of ways a better car, if you like, but it's never worth twice what an FG's worth. Never in a million years, or so it seems anyway. So then we went out for a test drive, and I was really, really impressed with it. It drove well, accelerates well, so on and so forth. The steering, and it's nicer say than the Tucson, which is only 2.5 years old. But and we got about halfway through, and my dad says, "You know something? I fancy one of these myself. Because I like sitting up here. He never liked the visibility in the front relief. Those two wee stupid windows right beside the wing mirrors, or I don't know. They must be for crash protection or something or other. But every other car manufacturer nearly seems to get away without them. So I say the change figure was right for him, and he decided he wanted one. And you know, if I could do the deal for him, he was happy enough to go away or to go with it. So once you get the 80, as the man says, what sort of car do you buy? And the answer is whatever bloody car you want.
Now your dad's got one. Are you going to get one as well?
No, sorry. The car that we have is my dad's.
Oh, okay.
I sort of do the dealing for him, because he would just go in and hand you all the money over the counter and get the car and away you go, and that would be it. He wouldn't worry about anything else. Which maybe he's the wise one and I'm the daft one. But there you go.
How about you, Michael? What was your motivation for getting your MG?
So my Ford Fiesta, I dinged it a little bit, and it was like $3,000 in terms of getting it fixed, and then there was a moisture getting inside, and then mold, and it's like, it's not healthy driving around with this inside. Also, it was a diesel, so it weren't healthy for the environment as well. And when you got solar panels, and during the summer I could charge it up a little bit for free. And also I knew that everywhere's going to go electric. Might as well jump on the bandwagon now than 10 years down the line. And I wanted a nice, cheap car. I just couldn't afford a Kona, or I definitely can't afford a Tesla. So when I saw this MG, I was like, the battery must be smaller. It must be like 24 kilowatt or something. But when they went, no, it's 44, I was like, what? For 24,000? You must be joking. But then I tried it. I enjoyed it. The drive, it was a lot more higher up from what I'm used to, but I loved it. And then I was like, you know what? I need to get this, and I need to get it now. Got it, and then lockdown happened, so I couldn't even drive it. Yeah, the only shame was it was like, right, I'm going to have a trip to Liverpool, possibly a trip to Scotland, and they've all gone to the wayside this year because of how bad 2020 is.
Yeah, Barnard Castle's good at this time of year.
My site's perfectly fine, though, so I don't need to go there.
But
maybe they've got a rapid charger you need to test out on your car as well.
Not too
True.
We haven't lockdown here. Well, we've had lockdowns here in Northern Ireland, but the company I work for, we do a lot of aerospace projects and aerospace contracts, and we've been open all the time. It's never closed. Which I suppose is a bit strange.
You have my sympathies.
Yeah.
Yeah, a couple of weeks off would have been nice. But you're saying there about that you can't drive it. I remember my uncle, who's deceased now, he's passed away, but he had got himself a 911, Porsche 911, and it had arrived home, and he had went out to the pub and come back drunk. Obviously, he didn't drive it, but my cousin, his son, was in the car going, and he said, "Get out of that, you!" And he went, but didn't actually drive anywhere, just sat in it and felt things and all the rest of it. So there's nothing stopping you, Michael, going out and sitting in your yourself.
I did drive it to Asda and back, but that's like 2 miles compared to like a Liverpool drive, which is 200 miles.
Yeah.
So lockdown really made the mileage it basically for free during lockdown, so I didn't have to pay for fuel, which was brilliant. But it's just a shame I couldn't get out and drive it the distances I wanted to this year.
Well, that's an interesting one you said about fuel. Northern Ireland had probably the best EV infrastructure in 2014 in the world, I would imagine. EVNI claimed that you were never more than, I think it was 25 miles from a rapid charger and never more than something like 15 miles from a fast charger. And we drove around in a lot of Leafs and so on and so forth. And I did 23,000 miles across 2 Leafs in 3.5 years. And whenever we took the meter out at home here, there was only £55 worth of electricity on it. So I did 23,000 miles for 55 quid, which is pretty good going.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Very.
And it's still free here. There's no charge for the public charging. Now, that was way back in 2014, and then we sold the second Leaf, went back at the start of 2017. So it's about 3 years since I properly used it, because my dad doesn't public charge very often, other than he goes with his mates to a local sort of beauty spot, and they go for a walk, and there was a public charger there. So his Leaf had a really easy time of it, because it was only ever getting charged about between 40 to 60% every day for like an hour and a half, 2 hours. So whoever gets that will get a nice battery in it. But
Yeah.
it's still free here. It's still free to this day. And like with the let's not get too political, but with the political parties that we have involved here, I can't see it ever changing for a long time.
The first year that I had my car, so I was commuting from Huddersfield and West Yorkshire to Manchester, so it's about 80-mile round trip I was doing, and my Kia had about 100-mile range in the winter, 130 in the summer, so it could do it like there and back, no worries. I didn't need to charge. But in Manchester, like the GMEV system that they've now changed to a different name, I could get on the charger pretty much every day for the first year, and then so that was in 2018, and then by 2019 Tesla Model 3 started coming out, and in the area that I worked in near Salford Keys, I just saw the numbers going up and up and up, and getting on that charger was just absolutely impossible. So I'm glad I had a car that could do the range. I mean, my wife's 24 kilowatt Leaf wouldn't do the range, particularly in winter. So, you know, it was fine. But even that first year, I think I spent something like £120 on electricity, and I put 12,000 miles on the car. It was so cheap. I mean, previously I had a Mazda, which is pretty efficient as a petrol car goes, and that was about £1,400 a year I spent on fuel. So just a drop in fuel a year is brilliant.
Yeah, 2 or 3 fills. Yeah.
There was an interesting. I think it was Mike Proctor put something on the forum in relation to battery degradation. On his one, I think he said he lost 1% of battery power in the first year, basically, or in 12,000 miles. And I think that's quite good as well, isn't it? And compared to, if you look at these Teslas, I think they're dropping between 8 and 10% over sort of 3 or 4 years, aren't they? And I don't know if that's because they're constantly being supercharged and rapid charged, that it's obviously having a detrimental effect on the actual batteries, isn't it? Whereas I think people who've got the vehicles like we've got, you're probably, yes, you will rapid charge them every now and again, but the vast majority would be 7 kilowatts or leave it on slow charge overnight and a granny charge. The battery drop off should be a lot less.
Yeah, I think sort of compared to the Leaf I had, because I used to use Leaf Spy and sort of monitor the batteries that we got. It was 3 years old. It was one of the ones that was on that friends and family deal, Stephen. So that had been run 44,000 miles when I got it, and that had been rapid at loads. It had like quite a lot of quick charges. When I got it, it was at 92% after 3 years. And then when I sold it a year later, it was at 86% of its battery. Now, Leafs have a problem because they don't have any active cooling of the battery. Not even like Stuart's Ioniq, where there's at least some air cooling going in there, so the batteries just get too hot. And if you're putting a lot of rapid charges in, or you're constantly going up to the buffer of the battery, you're going to run those batteries down. Whereas I think with the liquid cooling the MG's got, that stands it in good stead. And there's a buffer at the top and the bottom of the battery as well. So, you know,
I think the Leafs
all indications that looks good.
I think the Leafs have buffers as well. But I don't know. I followed our battery now quite closely in our second one that we had. The first one wasn't just so good now. I have a funny feeling it sat with a big charge in it for a long time. But I don't know. You only get 28%, I think, or sorry, 28 kilowatt hour out of a 30 kilowatt hour Leaf. You get 42 out of one of the MGs, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
42.5, I think, is what's been quoted, isn't it?
It depends which one you read, isn't it?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Wasn't there talk as well that some, again on the forum, that MG were looking to do an update which would give the ability to actually heat the battery as well as cool it? Wasn't there talk in the early days about that?
That's something that Bjorn Nyland had said when he spoke to some MG techs, I believe, in Norway. So that's where that rumor spread, I believe. So he said that there was supposed to be some update coming, but that's gone a bit quiet.
That was, I think they said August, didn't they?
There's a photo on Facebook on the MG Club, which is showing someone who's had an update in Europe with battery preheating, where in the infotainment system you can turn the battery heating permanently on or as and when required. But then there's no other details with that photo. It's just that photo and that's it.
Because I believe they're specifically doing it for the Nordic countries. So I don't know if we get it as well.
They come to Northern Ireland, it's bloody freezing here all the time. if you fit a wind generator on the roof, you won't need to ever charge it. It's like anything here too. No, I always thought that as a strength of the Leaf batteries, that they weren't actively heated. They weren't actively heated or cooled. Not a weakness, because it didn't really need it. The only bother they had at the start was in the really hot countries. They brought out that lizard chemistry or something, wasn't it, for really hot areas? But I don't know. I remember Tesla as well too. Didn't they have forest fires in America? And to get to the safe zone was a little bit outside the range of a Tesla, so they sent an over-the-air update to remove the buffers so that they had enough range. I'm sure it was all a marketing stunt, but they had enough range to get out of the danger zone.
I mean, that's quite interesting with those Teslas, because basically what they did was, with the ones that were 75 kilowatts and 60 kilowatts, they were basically 80 kilowatt packs that they locked down. So they just open up the range for them, which is quite an interesting thing. It's like, most companies are very tight about how much battery they'll sell you because they're expensive, whereas Tesla's like, well, it's an 80 kilowatt battery, but you're only paying for a 61. So we'll put the 80 kilowatt one in there, but we'll charge you less than the person who's got an 80 kilowatt, but you can't use it. It's like you're carrying around dead weight that you could access.
The advantage there, though, is that battery management system will make sure that they'll never have battery degradation, because the system will just use the bits of battery that have not been used before.
That's what Audi have done with the e-tron. It's got that much buffer at the top end.
And perhaps they did that. Perhaps they were quite smart in as much as they knew that obviously battery degradation was going to be quite key with all the super fast charging. But they had that ability to open up a little bit more so that the end user wasn't having as much fall off. Could be quite clever.
Well, it's like anything I've ever read about batteries, especially nowadays, if the closest you can stay to 50%. So if you can charge between 40 and 60, that battery should last you a long, long, long time. And the occasional top up just to make sure. I mean, look at the Leafs. If every so often, if the battery drops off, I mean, everybody that had a Leaf was using Leaf Spy. If the battery dropped off a wee bit, you took it and you give it a rapid charge all the way up, and then checked it a day or two. It usually got some of it back again. It'd give it a bit of a re-energization or something or other. I'm not quite sure what it was doing, or whether it was actually accurate and what you thought you were getting, you weren't really.
Mm-hmm.
So I suppose a question for Stuart, really, as the forum activator, shall we say, when are you getting your MG?
I'm looking for something that's got more than 200 miles range. The MG doesn't have it. My Ioniq doesn't have it. But at the moment, I'm very rarely traveling very far at all. I mean, today was unusual because I traveled from the Midlands down to Heathrow to pick my daughter up. She's flown back from America where she's at university. So today I've done Heathrow and back in the Ioniq. Spoke to a chap with a Jag. Experienced one non-working polar rapid and one working rapid. Was charged at Pod Point in Asda near Heathrow. So I've done it all today, and even drove without heating on to conserve it a little bit, and did some streaming behind, about that far behind a lorry. So yeah. No, I'm not.
And yeah, and your Ionic's got a great drag coefficient as well. I mean, compared to the sort of the pre-spot dimensions of the MG.
Yeah.
It's a really efficient car
Yep.
for a 28 kilowatt hour battery. You'll probably get the same range as we're getting out of the MG.
When it's fully charged, I can get 150 on the GOM, and it's quite accurate. And I'm currently stuck quite nicely at 5.2 miles per kilowatt hour, which, yeah. So, I mean, the reason why I'm enthusiastic about the MG, when I saw it at the show in, is it Gala or something? What's it called? Where the British Car Museum is, where they had that EV fair.
Bewley?
Sorry?
Bewley?
No, it's down the M40, and I saw the MG there, and Miles was there, and I just thought, this is a fantastic car. This is going to do a lot for the EV market. There's lots of people going to buy this car. And I thought, this is something that people are going to want to talk about, and so I thought, okay, let's start a forum, because that's my job. I own AV forums, so I know a lot about running forums. It's easy for me, and so yeah, I'm not going to not an MG ZS EV, because the range isn't long enough, and for me it's pretty simple in that, like, if you can afford 40 grand, or whatever payment plan you can figure out. For me, it's like, all right, so the Model 3 isn't brilliant, but if you can get a Model Y for not much more than 40 grand, I can't really see any reason why you get anything else. Just because of the charging infrastructure. Somebody we had a conversation about they are anticipating having like between 6 and 8 rapid charges in every motorway service station, and how wonderful that'd be compared to the one that we have now in almost all of them, and it's ecotricity and half of them aren't working. Right? Because I mean, like, on the journey today, I didn't even look at the motorway service stations, going down the M40, because that the ecotricity ones aren't going to be working. But then thinking about it, if so many people are getting electric cars, even 6 to 8 rapid chargers isn't going to be enough. We're going to need like as many as they have in the Tesla supercharger, stands, which is how many? What, like 20, 30?
UK tends to be sort of between six on the low side up to about 12. I think there's 121 here. And they seem to do quite well with that. One interesting that Tesla just started doing with their software updates, talk about their great software updates, is they're now saying with superchargers that how long you need to wait if they're all full. So it'll say that, you're going to a destination, there's like a short wait time until somebody's coming off a charger. So, you're fine going there, or it'll recalculate you to the next supercharger instead. And I mean, one of the great things they've got is because of the amount of cars that they've got out there around the world, they've got so much data, and they own the charging infrastructure, so they own everything to do with all that they can have that kind of connected experience that all of the manufacturers are going to be catching up with. It's something that I've put something on the forum this week that ChargePoint app now works with Apple CarPlay, and it just gave me a little inkling into what that world of having a Tesla's like, where you can just like look on your infotainment screen for a nearby charger while you're driving and just put it in, and it'll route you there. It doesn't give you all the information about whether it's busy or not, or you plug it in and it just starts charging. It takes it from an account. Well, actually, ChargePoint does, but not all their connected chargers do that. But it's kind of nice to have some of that experience. And I think, as you say, Stuart, if you can afford over 40 grand to buy a car, don't buy anything else but a Tesla. If you're wanting to buy an EV. Yeah.
Or 2 MGs.
Sorry?
Or 2 MGs.
Or 2 MGs. Yeah. But see, what?
But that drag coefficient's going to ruin it if you towing one for the other one.
Tow the other one behind, and then just keep braking in it to regen the first one. Do you ever remember those mad, I think they were Dutch guys, who towed a Leaf behind, I think it was a Nissan Navara, and held their foot on the brake so that it regen and recharged the car? by towing it behind the diesel. So all you really need is a big metal hook out the front, Stuart, so that whenever you're slipstreaming one of those lorries, it just goes out and goes clunk, and then you're away. So, boys, I'm going to have to go. Thanks very much for having me on here. I'll talk to you again.
Well,
no doubt.
yeah, hopefully you'll come back, because I think that the hope is that we will do this every Monday. So if you can join us on a regular basis and give us your perspective from Northern Ireland, that'd be great.
Yeah, it's not often people invite me back, Stuart, but there. All right.
Let us know how you get on with getting these issues sorted out as well.
Yeah.
I'll keep posting. I'll keep posting on the forum. I don't know what'll happen. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. I can't see my dad wanting to take it back. He just can't be bothered with that sort of thing. So we'll see how it goes. I have to say, Vic Young's, your guy Callum's being quite a nice chap. I know he's in sales and all the rest of it. The guy Stuart, the fellow that I spoke to, he just seems to he hit me as a sort of boy who just tells you, and that's it. As far as he's concerned, there's no consultation, no ifs, no buts. He's right, you're wrong.
Customer's not always right.
No. Well, we might be able to convince him of the error of his ways. It wouldn't be the first time that's happened. But all right, chaps, enjoy yourselves.
Cheers, Steve.
Cheers.
Take care.
Thanks, David.
Cheers.
Yeah,
Bye.
Bye.
Just thinking, if the Tesla app can tell you how long you've got to wait until you have a free charger at a Tesla, but it tells that to two people, can it also tell you how likely the other person is to start an argument about it?
I don't know. Or is it like going to tell you conflicting information so that you don't arrive at the same time?
Yeah.
It's like, right, you've got parity on this one, so we'll just reroute that other person to avoid the argument.
I was going to say I think that's where they're really ahead. Well, they're ahead in lots of ways, but that's where they're really ahead, isn't it? With their sat nav, that it will automatically detect how much charge you have in your vehicle, and along your route, it will detour you to a charge point, as you say. So you don't have to do any of that searching around. You don't need to calculate that. Oh, I need to charge in 100 miles time. The car will tell you that and reroute you to a charger based on the data, won't it? And I suppose that's a real selling point. I mean, as I say, prior to this, I had the Volvo, and my wife's Portuguese, and we used to go to Portugal every year with three children and a car full up with God knows what, and that was a sort of 22 hours door to door. We could never do that. Well, the MG is not big enough to do that anyway, but we could never do that now, because it would probably add at least another 10 or 15 hours onto that trip. The wife would never put up with it, full stop. But again, I think that's the way we're going with battery technology. Your range will increase. I think the prices may increase slightly, but I think they will balance themselves like most technologies. So you'll be getting longer distances, and where you're paying a little bit more, but technically the prices are gradually creeping down. So I think they'll remain fairly stable. But the Teslas, my only concern about the Teslas is, and I may be wrong, what are they like for reliability? Because I've heard there's been lots of issues with reliability, with sensors failing and God knows what else. And then where do you go to get them resolved? Or do you call out Tesla and they send an engineer to your home? I don't know.
You'd have to email them, wouldn't you? I guess.
Well, yeah. So.
I mean, it depends how close the service centre is to you. I don't know if they do Tesla ranges in the UK. In the States, they have like men that actually drive out to people in areas that they don't have coverage for. I think the UK is probably small enough that there's probably a service centre within 50 miles of most people, I think, now. But yeah, I think that's the area that Tesla need to catch up on. But if it's only that's achievable, that's a knowable thing for them to catch up on. I think where they're innovating and they're ahead of the legacy auto manufacturers, that's a bigger gap for them to bridge, even with the money that they have in their coffers. And they're going to have to spend that money to catch up with Tesla, whereas Tesla have the fortunate position that they've grown to scale, and some of their stock price has just gone through the roof because everybody's seeing that there's a kind of a a force of wind behind them, and they're just on a direction now that something major would have to stop them becoming an absolutely massive automotive company akin to their stock price at the moment, because the more factories that they're building, I just think that they're so far ahead of everybody else, and everybody else is playing catch up.
Yeah,
but I think as you said, because they've done it the complete opposite way to everybody else, haven't they? So they are the techno kids who have then built a vehicle around
the software,
the software, whereas opposed to everybody else is doing, they've got the cars and then they convert them, and the software is falling short, isn't it? Mm-hmm. So what's probably easier to correct, your build quality or your engineers and the intellectuals behind the actual development of the software? I don't know which is the easier to achieve. I would presume it's probably the craftsmen and the machinery pulling the vehicles together.
I think it's just sourcing the right people to do it. I watched quite a lot of Sandy Munro's takedowns of Teslas when he first got a Model 3 and he really took it to bits. And then he was saying, like, with their paint, they still haven't fixed the paint, and that's a problem of the factory that they've got in California, that it's an old paint shop and it can't be fixed. They need to either get moved to a new paint shop or get somebody in and completely start again with that. That's a fixable thing. He said, there's 2 or 3 people they could talk to in the world and they would fix that problem for them there and then.
That's still an issue with the Model Y as well.
Yeah, I think the Model Ys that are coming out of China will be better. The ones coming out of Berlin, you'll be getting German craftsmen going in there who probably work for Volkswagen and Audi, and they know how to screw a car together. I think Tesla's growing pains when it comes to manufacturing's going to change, and I mean that's an advantage MG have got to steer it back to MG. The fact that they have a partnership with Volkswagen in China to make Volkswagen's, SAIC, their ownership company of MG, have that. They've got that knowledge, and so they're starting from a low base with new cars that are EVs, but they don't have all that legacy built up demand to kind of serve for like their dealership networks, because they've only been selling petrol cars in this new MG guys for a bit in the UK. So their transition over to being a full EV brand is going to be a lot easier than Volkswagen or Vauxhall or and Ford for that matter, because we've got all these dealers with all these maintenance agreements and all these cars that they need to service. I think anybody new to the game has got a massive head start if they can get the economies of scale to get the cars out there, which I think MG are doing a great job in the UK and in other markets as well. I mean, they've just launched in Australia, I saw as well. So
yeah. What's the update on the other MG which is coming out, supposedly coming out, which is meant to rival a Tesla? I can't remember what it was called now, but it was only a 4-seater, wasn't it?
Is that the Emotion?
The Emotion. Thank you very much. Now that looked interesting.
Oh, it really does. I mean, if they can bring that in for £30,000, which they were suggesting could be the price of it.
With that range, I mean, the only thing for me which wouldn't work is a 4-seater when I've got 3 children.
Yeah.
Okay, one hopefully be going to university, but I can't work on that basis. But I mean, what a fantastic car. Mm-hmm. That looked, it looked like, to a degree, it looked like a bit of an Aston Martin lookalike from the side. But that could be revolutionary, couldn't it?
I think they envisage that as being like a halo car, like Kia's got the Stinger, that it'll really bring other people to their brand that were thought of looking at an MG. But it looks like a really interesting car, and I think I've read that the marketing manager for MG UK said that they're still looking at bringing that to market maybe next year.
I might be interested in that. It's not so practical, but it looks lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah. The one thing I wouldn't like about it is if it's got these really odd opening doors.
Yeah.
Yes.
I wouldn't like that.
But
gold wings.
You need ridiculous supercar doors. If it's going to look like a supercar, it's got to have stupid doors. It seems to be the rule.
Well, if they changed the actual design so they opened like the Lamborghini, so they came up rather than up like the. Mind you, saying that the Model X has got those style, haven't they? But they collapse in slightly, don't they?
Yeah.
So they, if they could interpret that design to work in the same way as what the the Model X does, then it would work, wouldn't it? Alternatively, going straight up like a Lamborghini. You know, you've got long doors, but no, you know, they're making their journey. From what I understand, the MG5 has been a positive step forward. You know, the new ZS sort of petrol version looks like it's made a step forward. You know, will they bring out a new MG ZS EV? Will they bring that out? And if they do, when? That would be another.
I have a feeling that they'd be better if they've got like bigger battery packs to put it into the HS, because that market of like a sort of mid to full size SUV with a 60, 70, 80 kilowatt battery, and nobody's really doing that apart from a Model X at the moment. So everyone else is a plug-in hybrid. If they could get to market with that size of car, there's real market share to be had in the UK for that, and around the world. You know, that people are crying out for that size of car. I mean, it's probably bigger car than most people need most of the time, but you know, it's a desirable size of car that people want. They can make a killing if they could put the bigger batteries in that, and I would keep the ZSs with the battery size they've got now. Maybe bump it up to 55 kilowatts, but sort of keep it low to keep the price low and to keep the demand there. Because what they don't want to do is like price themselves out of the market with the cost of the battery for the car, because they've got a great value proposition, and that's obviously something they're going to have to look at.
I think if they could break that 200-mile range in shall we say mild conditions, you know, so you're looking at more like 240 summer conditions, I think that would be a real positive.
And how much does it have to cost?
Plus.
What's the price tag? What's the price tag it needs to have?
Similar to the price tag now, but actually at that price tag, rather than advertising at the 31 and then all these discounted versions down to what people are tending to pay now, which is around 22 and a half.
21.
21, thanks for that.
I think the main thing is they've got to make the PCP work for people. If they can get it around sort of 300, I think most people would jump at that. You know, a car that can do over 200 miles at £300 a month out of pocket. That's however they do that, whatever the price they sell the car for it, with quite a lot of people buying on PCP. If they can get the PCP price, or even 250, and get it down to 250 somehow, that'll just get loads of people into the brand.
Yeah.
Yeah, because at the moment our dealer is advertising through the Echo on the Sky flash briefing, and literally after the Sky's news flash briefing, then you have the MG Nathaniel's advert trying to push the MG at 269 monthly price with a 24-hour no obligation test drive. And I'm like, I've already got an electric car. I don't want to listen to this. I'm already part of the future.
Gents, apologies, but I need to sign off. My dinner's ready. So I need to go.
Thanks for
Let's keep you from that, Mark.
Thanks.
Anyway, pleasure talking to you all.
Thanks, Mark. You're going to come again?
Yes, we'll do.
Fantastic.
Awesome.
All right. Take care.
Thank you very much.
Take care, Mark.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.
Can I ask, does anybody think we're going to get the MG app for the car like they do in India and Thailand and places like that? Or is it because of the GDPR and China and the British government and all that sort of thing?
I have a feeling probably not, because it's European wide that they haven't released it. If they haven't just released it here, maybe it was something to do with our market. But because in Norway they don't have it and Netherlands they don't have it, I think it's the servers must be sat in China, and GDPR rules will say that the data needs to reside in the EU. So unless they put a data center into the EU, might be once they get enough cars, maybe they would do it, but the data would have to be housed in the EU.
Yeah, it's just that functionality with the preheat and that sort of thing that you see in other cars that I would really like, you know.
Yeah, I'm lucky enough I've got a garage, so my preheat regime with the car is I go out to the car, turn it on, leave the keys in the car, go back inside, have a coffee, and then come out and the car's nice and toasty. But I know not everyone's got that luxury.
No. Never mind.
Also, I don't think the modem for that is installed in the car anyway.
No.
So you would have to spend like 600 or grand, depending on the dealer, to fit that device as well.
I've seen the, is it OMVS or
OVMS, yeah.
Yeah, do you think it might come to that?
They could do, because I mean that's got a lot of it's got the telemetry components that you need to communicate with the car, and they've had good success with other brands. So it's promising. It's just I think it's quite slow going for them to understand how to do the talk back to the car from the system. But yeah, I think that's the only way we'll see it on our current gen MGs. It might be that once MG gets enough volume sold in Europe that they'll do it, but I can't see them retrograde doing it to our models of cars. I think
on a newer model. Yeah,
but that happened with Kia as well. I mean, the Kia that I had in the States, they had the Uvo app where you could do the preheating, but the one that they sold in Europe didn't have it because they didn't have enough people to justify the service and the infrastructure to build that in, and now they do. So there's hope, probably not for our model, but for future models of MGs. I pretty much feel they'll do it because people are crying out for it, and all EVs pretty much have it that are sold at scale. So it's a bit of a negative for your brand if you don't have that.
Definitely, yeah. Oh well, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Chaps, I'm gonna have to leave as well. So unless anybody's got any other points or you want to hang around, maybe it's a good time to call to a close. But I really enjoyed chatting with you all.
Likewise.
Yes,
Definitely.
Likewise.
You join us again next week?
Yeah, I certainly will.
How about you, Stephen?
I'll be there. Yeah.
Okay.
See you
Michael?
next week.
Mike?
Yep.
Great stuff.
Awesome.
All right. Appreciate your time, gents. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for organising this as well.
All right.
Yeah, thank
no
you.
worries.
All right.
Thank
take
you.
care.
Cheers.
See you later.
Thanks.
Bye now.
Bye.
Cheers, guys. See you again.
Well, thanks everyone for joining us on this first call, and we hope to see you on a regular basis. So enjoy your electric motoring.